How you doing, legends? Let me know how you went this week in Draftstars. There's a few of these games, my selections went pretty well, and I hope that you got the correct combination between them all right to get this one over the line. If you're looking at the first game of the week, the Panthers v the Rabbitohs, obviously a pretty close game, and if you centered your team around guys like Murray and Ilias, it didn't work out so well, which you can see with mine. Spoke about Salmon being a really safe, over 40 type of option for a cheap guy. That worked out great. Leota, Kolomatangi, all these guys didn't work so well. Isaiah Tass was a good one at that cheaper price. Edwards was solid, but going with Johnson would have been better in this one. And you can see by the winner, there wasn't a hell of a lot of really, really good options. There's a lot of solid, safe guys in around that higher 40s. And then he had guys like Liam Martin, who probably could have scored a lot more than he did, but got a big 60 odds. So that was our first game of the week. You had Stephen Crichton getting a sneaky good option, sneaky good score as well. And he's continued to do that over the last few weeks with how... with him getting the goal kicking as well, and just being a little bit more of a focal point of their attack. So, yeah, that was that first game. There's a lot of big blowouts in this week, and I hope that you got on the correct teams and used your 6 available players that you could. In terms of the Cowboys, this is another one where you'd see if you went the outside backs from the Cows, he would have done a lot better. And I went with Kossi, who's been playing really well, and unfortunately wasn't able to get a big score in this one. But if you look, and then I went Kossi and also Arcee and everything else. Everyone else was a Cowboys player, which worked out great. Dearden was a great selection. We spoke about Cohen Hestis a little bit there, and he worked out well. Lucy Leilua, spoke about him being a must-have, and he was great. And then Cotter, I spent up that little bit more on Ruben, and probably could have spent a little bit less on someone else. And guys like Fanua Blake that you could have gone a little bit less at. Got pretty well the same score, just above what Cotter did. So, it was pretty close on this one. It's just a few of the ancillary options, those ones on the outskirts, that could have been a better selection there. But that was that Cowboys game. I hope you did well on that one. We had the next game, which was the Broncos v the Storm, and I had a good crack at this one as well, coming 39th out of the 300 available players. And we had guys that I spoke about, David Nofaluma being a solid option, and he came out and had an absolute cracker with that 74. Again, it was just avoiding guys from the Broncos, especially in the outside backs, and Herder there had a pretty poor game. He had Justin Olam, was awesome, so could have gone him instead at that little bit, only slightly more expensive, because he's had a pretty poor last sort of 6 to 8 weeks in fantasy especially. Guys we could have picked up in this one that would have been a little bit better. I had obviously Grant and Smith, which were great options. Picking Nelson at on the edge would have been the best selection here, 95 in this one. The winner of this match still had Ryan James with 13 and Kirk Capewell with 32. So it's just getting that a couple of those selections correct in Olam and Solomona over a couple of these guys. But very interesting match, that one, especially with not expecting Storm to come out and absolutely dominate that one at all. Okay, we moved on to the Eels here, up against, nice and slow, beautiful, there we go there, Eels v the Bulldogs, and obviously the Eels really dominating this one here, 42-6, and I came 4th last, beautiful. Selections weren't great, obviously going all in on Sean Lane, like he's been absolutely superstar of recent time. That didn't work out, and he was my highest scorer in this game. So for Mariner had a tough one, not having any of the halves in the Eels team with Moses or Brown was the poor one to go there. The winner had both of them. Guys like Opacek had their biggest game of the year. I went with Gutho, hoping that he'd have a good game, and he had no involvement. Reed Marnie was pretty terrible again. Thompson ended up playing some decent minutes, but again, only had a small amount of cash and decided to pick up him in this one. For Tyler Mariner, hoping for a bit more, and then Flanagan obviously wasn't going to do anywhere near what he had been the last month with how poorly they played in this game against the Eels. So not my best game at all on that one. Expected a little bit of a closer tussle. I did say they could go one way or the other there, with the Eels dominating in that one. Seagulls v Sharks was the next one, and again, a very dominant performance from the Sharks. We spoke about this one as trying to pick, especially outside backs from the Sharks team, and going for Ikavalu over Ronaldo was the play in this one. They obviously was a very similar price, with Ronaldo scoring pretty average of recent time, actually. Hines was a clear must-have, and that worked out great. And then it was just, do you go, which one of the cheap forwards from the Sharks do you try and go for and try and pick up a try again? And going with Royce Hunt was the way to go. And going with Tolman wasn't the play in this one. Going for someone who could score a try was the way to go, and that worked out with Hunty. Wade Graham, a bit of a lower one for him. Fafita had a really good one off the bench, and it was just those bench forwards for me, all those cheaper forwards that didn't work out as well. Walker, I was expecting probably a little bit of a higher score, given he was going to get some good minutes through the middle there, but his 37 wasn't the worst ever. It was just a few of those guys, a little bit up and down, but the scoring for me coming 68th was pretty solid. But yeah, I hope you had a little mix and match in that one and selected really well. Last two here, Dragons v Titans. Obviously, big scoring game, plenty of scoring in the outside backs. Unfortunately, I went with Philip Sami, who was injured in the first minute. So 0.3 score for him. It wasn't great. Sam McIntyre was hoping for a little bit of a higher score, given he was going to get, he ended up with 55 minutes in the hooker position. So that wasn't as good as we hoped. Brimson, unfortunately, just a 40 for him after he's been playing super well. But two pretty close to must-haves in Tanner Boyd, Bird, and then also Jaden Campbell. They played really well. If you went the outside backs in the Dragons in Monga, Lomax, then worked out super well. The winner of this one absolutely killed it with 432 points with guys like Tino and also Dave Fafita, who were the more expensive guys that worked out really well, and they picked great in the outside backs there. And Amone at the cheaper price did his job. Last game in this one, guys, Knights v the Raiders also didn't go terrifically well in this one. Thankfully, we could have we avoided guys like Adam Elliott. I spoke about Brayley being a really, really good decision in this one. Edric Lee being actually solid as well, along with Brodie Jones. And unfortunately, I made this team a little bit earlier and didn't get that last hour before team list there. And Frizzell and Saifidi out for me, but actually selected really well with Milford, Jones, Brayley, and Edric Lee. So again, not worried about my team because I was playing the free one, but I hope you guys took that advice with those types of guys. And Milford was a sneaky one. He's actually been playing pretty well of recent time. And even though they got beat, he was still able to score nicely and do a good job. And that interesting one with Dane Gagai has been very on and off, and another good game for him. So well done to everyone playing this one. I actually think I would have had a pretty sneaky, decent game, getting close to that top 50 if I was able to change my team. But that's that one there, guys. That is the review show for Draftstars. As I said, I hope you did really well. Let me know in the comments if you won any money this week. And as always, with Draftstars, gamble responsibly there if you're heading into next week's one. And it's going to get really fun as we get closer to the finals time with less games on and obviously a little bit more prize money up for grabs, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll catch you in the next one.